It is 5:30. If we could call the regular Amherst Exempted Village Board of Education meeting to order by standing and pledging the flag, which the flag is over there and on the screen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Engel?
Present.
Mr. Zappa?
Here.
Mrs. Gillis? Here. Dr. Messer? Present. Mrs. Wacholz? Here.
We entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as it's presented, which was updated earlier today electronically.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there discussion or comment on that recommendation? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Zappa?
Aye.
Mrs. Gillis? Aye. Dr. Messer? Aye. Mrs. Wacholz? Aye. Mr. Engel?
Aye. Hearing of the public. I don't believe anyone signed in. Would you folks like to say anything at all? Huh? No?
We're good.
Where are you from Amherst?
Yes,
What troop do you belong to?
428.
428. And where is that located?
O'Leary.
The Methodist Church.
Methodist Church here in town?
Yes.
Okay. And you've been in Scouts for a long time, I assume, most of it. Just
Almost 5 years
okay.
for me.
Anybody longer? How many?
6.
6?
I mean, actually 5.
5, 6? What's the least number of years? 3. All right. Good. And how big? Is this all of you, or do you have more?
We have
We have 3 more.
3 more.
Technically, that would be 6 more, but they don't come to meetings.
So this meeting is a requirement for them to complete one of their Eagle Merit badges, which is communications. They have to attend a public meeting. It was either a city council meeting or a school board meeting, so we chose to come to the school board meeting.
Well, we're glad you chose to come to the school board meeting. So welcome. Okay.
Would we be able to get all of your names and your troop number before you leave this evening?
Yes.
Sure. Recorded.
You can just write it on that piece of paper.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on to item 6 on the agenda. And if you want a copy of the agenda, there's a copy up here for you.
Yes.
Okay. The treasurer's report would be item 6. Madam Treasurer?
Yes. Good evening. Good evening, Boy Scouts.
Good evening.
Working on your Eagle badges. I'm Amelia Gifredo. I'm the treasurer of the district. So this evening, I'll do a brief financial overview of fiscal 23. We just ended fiscal 23, June 30th. Normally we have this on the screen, but if you look at your financial recap that I gave you, it shows fiscal 21, 22, and 23. That's the immediate past year, 2 prior years. On a month-to-date basis, the left 3 columns, the right 3 columns are fiscal year-to-date numbers. So on the rightmost column is your fiscal 23, which encompasses all of fiscal 23, 7/1 of 22 to June 30th of 2023. You'll see that the areas where we had favorable variances in June of 2023 were the real estate. In the note down below, you would see that that is due to inside village, growth in inside village. Line 104, we had a favorable variance in line 104. That's our restricted revenues. That has to do with the way the Department of Education changed the Fair School Funding Plan. And there were new receipt codes for economic disadvantagement, base class wellness, gifted, career tech, etc. Those are all things that are aggregated in line 104. So we had a negative variance in line 1035, which is general foundation. And we saw a reduction of revenue in line 1035 and an increase in revenue in line 104. And then line 105, property tax allocation, had a very small favorable variance from the prior year. And then in other financing revenue, that's lines 2.01 through 2.08, there's an increase there, and that line aggregates returns of advances and returns of transfers to the general fund. Typically, those are for federal fund advances and transfers, but we also aggregate loss of assets, reimbursement for loss of assets in that line. That line includes then insurance payment for asset losses, specifically the loss to the gymnasium, when the roof blew off due to the storm on, no doubt, April 1st of 2023. So we received $188,000 in that line in May of 2023. Then we received an additional $3,300 in insurance losses in June of 2023. So those we see the favorable variances for revenue. And so we collected about $196,000 more in fiscal 23 than we did in fiscal 24. You'll see very clearly our revenue is static. There's very minimal growth in our revenue from 21 to 22 to 23. Now, one thing that I want to point out then, on the bottom right column, which is also June year-to-date, fiscal 23, that you'll see nothing is highlighted there in the expenditures. That means we spent more in every category in fiscal 23 than we did in fiscal 24. I will point out the bottom, the cash balances. Our cash balance currently is $20,329,933, which is almost $1.4 million less than last year, which is the amount of deficit spending we had this year. Does anybody have any questions about that? All right, so I'm going to move on to my recommendations, Mr. President.
Please.
Very simple forecast this month for the treasurer's recommendations. 3 items. I ask that the board amend and or approve the board minutes from the June 26th regular board meeting. Now, this would show on the screen if we had the screen, but trust that I have identified that there's a correction to the roll call vote in the minutes for June 26, 2023. We have that Mrs. Wacholz abstained from a vote for the financial recommendations. That is a mistake. That will be corrected. I will make sure that that indicates aye, an affirmative vote. That is not on the page where you sign, Mr. President.
Right.
So I will make sure that the correction is made to that page, and you can go ahead and sign this evening.
And it's noted on this copy that I have.
And then item B are the June financials. We have discussed the financials each month. There is financial reconciliation or cash reconciliation, 2 pages. There is a financial summary by fund and special cost center. And then there are forecast reports for Fund 1, General Fund, and Fund 16, the emergency levy. And then there is a check listing, accounts payable check listing. We've discussed some of us different items on that check listing. And then there are then and now approvals in item C for 2 vendors. And that is all of the initial financial recommendations that I asked the board to consider.
So we entertain the motion for treasurer's recommendations 7A through C. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion or comments on any of that? None? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis? Aye. Mrs. Wacholz? Aye. Dr. Messer? Aye. Mr. Zappa?
Aye.
Mr. Engel?
Aye.
That
Aye.
motion passed, and now the
Motion
final item we have, 7D, is commonly referred to as a resolution to proceed. I will read it. A resolution submitting to the electors of the school district the question of the replacement of an existing 2 mil tax levy for the purpose of general permanent improvements and increase of that levy by ½ mil pursuant to section 5705.192 of the Ohio Revised Code. You see this in attachment 7A. This is the final resolution that should be approved by the board in order to appear on the November 8th ballot. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about that? I know we discussed it briefly.
Let's take the motion and then take the
Okay.
okay?
So moved.
In a second. We have a motion and a second for 7D. Now, you can ask all the questions you want from the resolution that she read to us. Anything?
I have one. In it, it mentioned $88 per, I mess it up, doesn't matter. But in the initial thing that we looked at, it was closer to like $60 that we thought it would be. Is there a reason that there's a difference from when we like originally discussed it?
Would that been just a 2 versus 2.5?
I couldn't find the exact thing, that's why I did on that. Reading it right now. I think it's $88 per $100,000 home. I don't know, it just was a little bit more than we initially thought it was gonna be.
$88 divided by 12. Mike, can you do a calculator on your phone? $88 divided by 12 months.
733.
I do know what you're asking because I believe in our presentation, we said it would be an additional $4.52 per month. Do you recall that?
Correct.
For the $500,000 increase.
Correct.
I don't have an answer for that right now.
Would that be the combination of the increase plus the original?
That's what I'm
Per
wondering,
month,
this both together.
Possibly.
Yes.
It would be because it would go
Yeah.
up. The one number was if there was no increase, if we would have just kept it at status quo. So the increase would be the 0.5, which is probably the extra 20 cents.
I couldn't find the initial for the paper we looked at previously to find how it was all right now.
I don't have an answer for it. Morgan, I don't, I'm not sure how that leaves the question.
I just don't remember what the calculation was previously.
I know that we originally had that prefaced in the presentation in May to the board, or the June 14th special meeting, was that it was 452 additional.
Correct. And so,
Okay, it's going to be a little bit more than that because this has all been certified. I mean, it will go to
Yeah.
certification if
Right.
yeah, I
it
think,
changes.
That's-
we've been discussing the increase, and that probably is
The
full
total.
2.5 total. Correct.
That would be the original plus the increase, I would guess.
Correct.
But if it's not calculated correctly, the
I'm sure it is calculated correctly, I would just, it
That-
maybe what was the initial thing that was like theorized, this is what it will probably be. And, yeah, I think one together, but yeah.
Did it mention on any of the slides what the current cost per $100,000?
No, and in the two ballot examples we gave, we had those blank. And actually, the cost
Yeah.
we had they were blank. So I think we were again talking about the increase for every meeting, and I never went back and looked at what the original is currently right now, plus the increase.
Just be
I'm
assured,
sure it's correct, I
That-
just was curious how it got from one to the other.
and due to, I mean, its correctness, I would say yes, it has been validated by the county auditor after the first resolution was passed, the resolution of necessity on June 26th. The county auditor took that and then developed a tax valuation and collection estimate based on our current $712 million assessed valuation. So yes, I would agree that it's correct, and yes, that would have to be the total amount, not just the increase amount.
Okay.
Other
Very good
questions
question.
on that resolution? Call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis.
Aye.
Mr. Zappa.
Aye.
Dr. Messer.
Aye.
Mrs. Wacholz.
Aye.
Mr. Engel.
Anything else, Madam Treasurer?
That is it.
Superintendent's report?
I just want to give one quick update regarding the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant that we received that grant And looking into it, I found out that we were one of only 11 school districts in the state to receive this round 3 of the grant. So we were awarded $270,000. And that was for focus on 6th grade through 12th grade literacy. And so those funds are going to go toward professional development for our teachers, some assessments in 6th grade through 12th grade, and also we specifically wrote in that we're looking for funding for a specific 6th grade through 12th grade literacy coach for next school year to focus in on, again, 6th grade through 12th grade. So that was a part of the grant as well. That's also why in personnel we have an item, I believe it's 10H, which is a job description for a specific 6 through 12 adolescent literacy coach. So that's why those two are tied in together for this. I just want to share with you the great news, and again, looking into one of our 11 in the state, that, again, excellent news. So pretty proud of the team that put that together, and that would be Brianna Cardin, our literacy coach. Mackenzie Hall jumped in at the end there, and also most of the work was with Brianna and Sarah Walker. So,
Great.
an update on that. That's all I have.
That's all you have? Sarah's on vacation, so we have no update from Assistant Superintendent. JVS update, we'll meet on Thursday. The big thing at the JVS is we moved to board docs for our board meetings. It's a challenge, not for everyone, but for some who don't want to do it. So we'll see how that all plays out. There's a couple that are just fighting the whole way from that perspective because they want a paper copy and they don't want to open it. So just give you praise to that, okay? Because I'm sure that maybe the paper that I was the bad guy again, okay? So I give you those heads up from that perspective because we will be having legal look take that and take some action toward those board members. Not toward them, but telling them what they need to do because they don't want to listen to the majority of us, okay? Or the superintendent or the treasurer. And it's the treasurer who has really pushed this from that perspective. So, otherwise, we're starting to gear up. We started to do some work on the outside of the building, some tucking and pointing and some roof repair, and so the water doesn't get in it until we can get a full appraisal of what it would really cost to do what we want to do out there. And they're still working on that. GPD is still the ones that are working on that, and it's a big process because when you were there, you recall all those things were on the wall. That's all not valid now because that was pre-COVID. So that is all changing. So we're still continuing to work on that. So there will not be a levy on the November ballot, which was kind of the goal, but there's no way because of the process of getting it done just isn't going to happen. Because we'd have to have it there by August the 8th, 7th, whatever, to have it on that ballot. So, any questions on the JVS? Okay. Is there any other board discussion or committee reports? Amanda, do you have anything this evening?
Just a verbal note, don't forget the August 2nd election for issue 1, and OSBA will be sending out more guidance on some of the new educational parts of the biennial budget that just passed, so.
And then the regional meeting is the first part of
August 23rd?
That was the first part of August. It's the end of August?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking it was the
It's
beginning
the
of
first
August.
day of
It's
school.
the end of August. Okay, all right. All right, we don't even worry about that. We'll meet before that. I knew it was in August, but I didn't remember. Okay? Anybody else have an update or community report from anyone?
I just want to say that Mark and I have been taking tours of the properties within the district with Mr. Molnar and Mr. with Chuck. And so I'm making a list. And so once we finish that, I'll share the list of things that we feel that need to be accomplished. But we still have steel and the old board office.
Right.
That's it, because we've done everything else. Went to workshop players and all that good stuff, so we've been everywhere.
Okay.
Oh, I have a quick question. For transportation, are we going to meet before school starts? Transportation committee?
Yeah, we certainly could and should, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, over August.
That'd be great.
Any other updates? Item 10 would be personnel recommendations. Mr. Mulner?
Yeah, we have a few personnel recommendations here for the board. They're pretty standard for this time of school year. I think the board's had a chance to review all those personnel items. So I'd like to make a recommendation to the board to approve personnel items 10A through 10L.
We have a motion and a second. Second. Discussion or comments or questions on any of those items?
I had a, I guess, comment. So now that we have like our district leadership team and our HR director, and we're moving into a strategic planning space, I talked to Mr. Miller about this earlier today briefly. I really hope that one of the pillars or whatever, what we're gonna do for the strategic plan would be looking at teacher retention or other, non-teaching staff retention. So I feel like as of late, a lot of the resignations, they're like pretty tenured people or just the caliber of people that are resigning. For me, at least, it's a little, I don't want to say a little, it's concerning.
You're
Okay.
doing exit interviews, correct?
Exit interviews are being done
Yeah,
now
we're starting-
that
yes.
the HR person is in place.
Yeah, so we'll get.
So we'll have some insight.
Yeah, we'll get insight, but just look at creating more ways or creating ways to address retaining people. Can't speak eloquently.
So
but that's-
you're
those are my
you're concerned because you feel that the people that are leaving are people that have been here for a while?
That or just what they bring to the, I mean, everyone brings something special and unique to the district, but just some of the people's like, oh, this need that we've been fulfilling is kind of maybe in danger or whatnot. And just for our students, just seeing stability of people, because some of these people have kind of been a staple in certain places, so just for our students to have stability and, their colleagues and also our admin, I'm sure they're sad to see some people go, so.
Any other comments or questions on the personnel recommendations A through F? If not, call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis? Aye. Mr. Zappa? Dr. Messer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wackel? Mr. Engel?
The coach, the literacy coach, is only a 1-year appointment, correct?
Correct.
So that you know that it's not going to be a multi-year thing. So that probably that position will go away, just so you all are aware.
And that's just a job description
That's just a
at
job
this point,
description.
so.
But just so you know that they're going to only be looking to hire for 1 year, with probably no intention of keeping that person because of funding. Because
It's just tied.
they're only getting it that's tied to the brand, okay? But that's a good point, that if that person would leave, why are they leaving? Because we're only going to probably offer them a 1-year contract, okay? And we don't think that there's going to be any issues in filling these positions that we have vacated so late in the year.
No, we often sometimes have positions late in the year that we always work hard to fill, so we'll definitely do our best job to fill the position.
Well, I think 2 of them will be pretty easy to fill. The first one might be a little challenging. That's just my opinion, because that's a special talent.
Correct.
Not that they're not all special talent, but not everyone can be a music person. Teachers can teach multiple grades and multiple subject matters. Okay? All right, moving on to educational recommendations, 11.
Yeah, we just have 2, and those are 2 for services that we have to prepare for the 23-24 school year. And so I'd like to make recommendations for the board to approve items 11, A and B.
And a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, 11A and B. Is there any discussion or comments? None, call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis? Aye. Dr. Messer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wackel? Mr. Zappa? Mr. Engel?
Business recommendations?
Yeah, we just have 1, and that is for to work with the Ohio School Boards Association for the purpose of strategic planning coming up this school year. And so both Dr. Messer and Mr. Engel were involved in that process of selecting, reviewing a few different options we had, and they helped, along with the district leadership team, select OSBA and to help assist us with that process coming up in this next school year. And so that is an agreement to work with them for that purpose. I'd like to recommend Item 12A.
Have a motion and a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Was that Mrs. Gillis?
Dr. Messer, do you have anything you'd like to say to that, being part of that?
Oh, it was a great meeting, and it was good to see two different, I guess, viewpoints on strategic planning. I'm glad, who the group went with, so.
Well, it was quite a savings also.
Yeah,
I mean, quite a savings from, just so you're aware of that. Not that that should have been the deciding factor, but I think that listening to both of them, you could see that everyone was leaning toward OSBA. After we
Who
got
was the other choice?
Impact Group.
Impactor,
yeah.
impression of Impactor. They're out of Independence area, Solon area.
More of a, I guess, a private
Yeah,
group.
it's a private group, yes. And they do a lot of schools and a lot of city municipalities. I would say they do more municipalities than they do schools. Having listened to them, okay? Any other questions or comments? None, call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis? Aye. Mr. Zappa?
Aye.
Dr. Messer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wackel? Mr. Engel?
We will move into executive session this evening for the purpose of property or public purposes of a sale of property. There's been an inquiry to one of the board members about something, so we will go into executive session to do that. Okay?
What was the agency again?
B, as in boy. Okay?
Just trying to read that's what you. Thank you.
Okay? So we will do that. There will be no action to follow at this point in time. Okay? So I entertain a motion to go to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis? Aye. Dr. Messer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wackel?
Aye.
Mr. Zappa? Mr. Engel?
Thank you for coming.